This is a very clear permission, encouragement, but permission to take care of yourself first. We can only be our best at work if we're being our best, for ourselves first. And that means being present at home, being healthy with ourselves, moving our bodies, having some quiet time to really prioritize and maybe just take some breaths. But permission was kind of the biggest first rock that we had to kind of push up the hill, so to speak.
My name is Brian Panuzzo. I help successful professionals build an elite body and mind without sacrificing work or time with their family. I know your life because I lived it for 20 years. If I can do it, so can you. Welcome back to the Success Lift podcast. I'm your host, Brian, and I am so excited that I have a guest with me this week. I don't just have to talk by myself into the camera to you. You get to hear a conversation between myself and my good friend, Tim McMahon, who runs the advancement office at Marquette University. Tim and I first met on this show, episode number 110 of the podcast, way back in September of 2022. And we have remained friends since. We have stayed connected. We have followed along each other's journey. And late last year, early this year, he reached out to me about my corporate program where I run executives through a 4-month structured process to help them develop the tools to be better professionals inside the office by primarily focusing on their lives outside the office. And that is, as you'll hear in our conversation, one of the lies that most professionals that I work with and speak to believe. It's certainly one that I believed for a period of over a decade inside my career. I would love to do these things. I'm too busy. When things slow down, I looked at it as a luxury. What I didn't realize, and what everyone that I work with ends up realizing, is that those two places end up coming together more frequently than we always think they will. And by taking control of your life outside of the office, by applying structure, by focusing on your personal care, by prioritizing your schedule and your routines and your family, things inside the office get, quite frankly, better. You make more money, the job is easier, you're happier, you're less stressed, you're more productive, and the team that you work in, the organization that you work in, thrives as well as you do. And oh, by the way, things outside the office get a whole lot better too. And so I wanted to bring Tim on because we just finished our work with his group at the university over the last 4+ months. I was able to get up and see them in the past couple of weeks. And it was an amazing trip up to Marquette. What an amazing campus and university Marquette is. What an amazing group of individuals I had the honor of working with over the last several months. And I'm super excited for you to hear my conversation with Tim. If, after listening to this, you think that your team inside of your business, whether it be a small company, whether it be a smaller team inside a massively large organization. I've worked with small groups of teams inside of Fortune 50, Fortune 100 companies. And so whether or not you're a small organization or a large one, if you're running a team, if you are working with leaders, right? It doesn't even have to be a structured team. You could have 10 of your top leaders. If you think that getting them in an organized fashion to start to prioritize things that you know they're not, all of the stress that we take home, all of the pressure that we put on ourselves, all of the things that we don't prioritize in the name of, for the sake of our professional careers, I'm living proof that they don't have to be that way. And I love when I introduce other people to this thought process and watch them start to make changes and see the benefits all throughout their life. If you think that anyone in your organization could benefit from us, please reach out to me, brian@thesuccesslift.com. I appreciate Tim. I appreciate the team at Marquette. I appreciate you for checking in with us on a weekly basis. Without further ado, let's get to the great conversation with my man, Tim McMahon. All right, Tim McMahon, welcome back. Welcome back to the podcast. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing great, Brian. It's great to be back.
We were just talking before, we officially started recording. It's been almost 3 years since we first met each other virtually. What a cool world we live in. You were episode 110 of the podcast. I had you on after you wrote your incredible book, Push the Tarp, and we've stayed connected since then. So it's a pleasure to have you back on the show, man.
That's great to be here. Thanks to the great Sean Casey for connecting us 3 years ago.
That's right. Chinch and heard you on Chinch and Sean's podcast, The Mayor's Office, and thought you'd be a great conversation on mine, and it was. And from there, who knows where relationships go. We stayed connected, and I wanted to have you back on because recently we finished up working with your leadership team at Marquette University. You had reached out to me late last year to talk about working with your group, and we spent an awesome 4+ months together. I was just up there recently, closing out the program with everyone, and got some great feedback. And I thought it would be cool to have a conversation with you as the leader and seeing what you noticed, what you experienced personally, and just kick it back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Cool. So quickly, who the heck are you, and why are you here? We know why you're here, but who the heck are you?
Yeah, well, it's Tim McMahon. I serve as Marquette University's Vice President for University Advancement. Marquette's a leading Catholic Jesuit university in the west side of downtown Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I've been here at this university for 7 years now, leading our advancement operations, so our alumni relations and engagement, our fundraising operation for the university. I'm married to my wife, Kara, for 18 years, and 3 great boys. Jack and Luke are our twins who are going to be entering high school in a couple of weeks here. And our oldest, Brady, just started driving, which is a new phase. He's 16 and starting his sophomore year. So I do a lot of things, but I'm a husband and father first. I like to think of myself as an advancement leader, coach, and guide second, and try to be as athletic and artistic as I can on the side, all around everything else. But it's great to be back. I really appreciate all the help that you offered us, and I'm excited to talk about it.
We're all trying to be better athletes in our lives, I guess, in some way or another.
Yep.
So take me back to late last year, early 2025, when we had our first conversation about, me potentially coming in and working with the group. What were you looking to achieve? What were maybe some of the struggles that you felt like you were going through, or some of the other members of the team were going through, and what were you looking to accomplish, with our work together?
Sure. I think it's a credit to you in the way that you continue to put out consistent content. Frankly, I remember working out at the Milwaukee Athletic Club, which you've now seen a couple times, and just listening to some of your content and thinking, I know you. We've connected through the podcast and through Case and Chinch. We've stayed connected on the side. But I really thought there was an opportunity to do something with our team, because we have a high-performing team. We have a high-performing department at a great university in Marquette. But I thought we could probably, level up. And I thought the timing was particularly good because we were finishing an 8-year fundraising campaign that we called Time to Rise. And we were going into what we call in the fundraising world and the advancement world, the quiet phase of the next campaign. And that was this past fiscal year. So now we're in year 2 of the quiet phase. I thought there was an opportunity for our team to get more connected. And I thought you could help with that, and particularly set some individual standards, some individual routines, and then connect them together, knit them together. So I thought our team could be even more connected with each other. I thought we were an incredible group of people, and very high performing in our own rights, with what we do, leading our own respective teams within the department. But I thought there was an opportunity to maybe have some common language, and I really thought you could help us with that, and it definitely worked.
I like that common language. It's something that we did work on a weekly basis. Is sharing one-word focuses for ourselves for each week. That was something that you drove. That wasn't, something that I'm familiar with some of the work that we've done on our own with other coaches, but sharing that with each other and effectively putting ourselves on the hook each week was something that I thought was really cool. It's a component in a process inside of my program for sure, but getting people on the same page so that they understand what you're particularly focused on. And just as important, if not more, what I loved was why. Understanding why someone has a one-word focus this week, and what it means for them, why it's meaningful, and what they're going to focus on really allowed all of us to not only lock into our own personal priorities for the week, but then also enable us to hold each other accountable throughout the process, to check in on each other and make sure that we were actually doing the things that we said we were going to do.
Yeah, and that's what we would start. We start every leadership team meeting, which is every 2 weeks, with a one-word focus, and it really allows us to check in right away. Then bringing it to your weekly process, I think it drilled it down one step further. So the other thing I would say on top of, where the value was giving people, and I said this at our first meeting when you were here in February, I think it was early February or late January, that this is a very clear permission, encouragement, but permission to take care of yourself first. We can only be our best at work if we're being our best, for ourselves first. And that means being present at home, being healthy with ourselves, moving our bodies, having some quiet time to really prioritize and maybe just take some breaths. But permission was kind of the biggest first rock that we had to kind of push up the hill, so to speak.
Yeah, I remember writing permission to change on the whiteboard, and we talked about that. And I also remember in that first meeting there being a lot of your sort of typical preconceived stories, right? I like to say about why things are the way they are in our lives and why they most likely, and your group was amazing. They were very open. Some felt a little challenged, I think, in the beginning, but they were open to exploring another way. And one of the things I found in my 20-year corporate career, for 15 of them, was this inability or unwillingness to see or believe that there might be another way to accomplish the success that I want to have inside the office by doing other things, maybe predominantly outside the office, which is what most of the program is focused on. Ironically enough, and you mentioned that bringing your best self to work. In order to bring your best self to work, you have to work on yourself outside the office, which most people think they can't do or don't have time to do or think of as a luxury. We flip that and make that a priority and just ask them to then evaluate, see how it's going in the office. But what do you think some of the typical, stories were, maybe not just from your own team, but it's in general, where people, look at high performance in the office and then usually say to themselves, well, that would be nice to do more of this type of stuff outside the office, and then sort of shut it down and go, well, this is why I can't do it. Were there any of those either for you personally or for, anybody, not specifically on the team, but just in general? Yep. What are some of those stories that you think people usually tell themselves?
I'll start with myself, and the one that I've told myself for the majority of my career, and I've been better at this the last few years since working with some mutual friends, is that it has to be a grind. That I have to grind. That's the way I'm going to outwork everybody. I'm going to get it done through just pure effort and persistence, and that includes that I'm going to get sick throughout the year. I'm going to run myself down. There's going to be stressful moments, and this is just the way to achieve. And it's not true, obviously, right? It's really dangerously unproductive, actually, when you think about it. And so that was the number one story for me for years. And again, part of the reason that I wanted to bring you in is that I, over the last few years, have shifted into a much different realm and approach. That's one. Number two, I think, is that, like you touched on it a little bit in your question, that we have so many kind, smart, hardworking people that they say, well, that's great that you can work out and you have all that time. That's just not how it works. I don't have the time, or I have a different schedule, or I'm at a different place in my life. And so everyone's schedule is absolutely their own. But within that schedule, how do you find your best routine, your pockets? How do you have conversations at home? And there were some great examples of that, having conversations at home with spouses who were very active. And I know very athletic and competitive in the best way. How do we make sure that, no, this can be for everyone. It's not just for others. And then the third one, I think, is maybe just telling yourself the story that's just, there's the time piece. I don't have the time. But then there's others that just say, that's just not me. I can't change whether it's, changing my level of fitness, changing the way I manage stressful situations. They're just the piece that I can't really change it, more of a overall piece of not seeing themselves, like not having that high level capability, the ceiling. And I think all three of those were discussed throughout our program together.
Yeah. As soon as you said the word grind, I my clients know I hate that word. I mean, I think in the proper context, it's fine. Yeah. But I always flash back to, and I literally have a visual of one person in particular, but a couple of types of people, but they all sort of look the same, where I would pass by them, they'd walk by my desk on the floor, or we'd be in the pantry or the kitchen or whatever together. And it's like, you're like, hey, what's up, man? How's it going? And it's like that guy who's and usually it was a overweight guy with messed up hair and the shirt was slightly untucked and they probably should have been put out to pasture, 5 years ago. And it was like, just grinding, man, just grinding it out. And it was like every time I would ask him, what's going on? How you doing? He would talk about the grind. And it's like, I would just want to run away as fast as possible. If life is a grind, how much fun can you be having? And why would you continue to show up in that capacity? And I say this not, kind of poking fun at this person. I'm clearly framing it that way. That's how I felt for 15 years. It's like, I didn't necessarily love what I was doing. And I thought I was kind of stuck in this career, and I would just have to show up and I'd have to be out. And, for you guys, you'd have to travel a bunch and you'd have to be on a lot, right? Mm-hmm. And that's something we could talk about too. It's showing up as your best self so that you can be on to have great conversations and connection with people who ultimately you want to, give money to the university. I mean, that's your goal. And how can you be really good at that if you're not operating at an A+ level? And, we talked a lot about standards and goals, and we had both, and we went through, the elite self-image process that I have inside my program. And we want people to set these higher expectations. But, like we talked about in our last meeting a few weeks ago, when I was up there, we talked about moving the floor higher of your standard. And I think most of us, when we're in that grind mode, we don't necessarily have a standard for ourselves that we're unwilling to break. And that standard floats around with the wind based on, what's going on in our lives. A busy season, of basketball and travel for you guys, or, whatever it may be. And so for me, thinking about standards and constantly moving that up is a big theme inside the program. And it was really cool to see a lot of people change what they were doing on a daily basis and be, in the early stages of unwilling to now break that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, to use your favorite word one more time, to grind is a very selfish or self-centered pursuit, right? And when you start to step back and say, what am I here to do? Largely, people find reward when they're part of something greater than themselves. And then if you're gonna, dare I say, push the tarp together, you've got to be able to be present with your two hands as best you can. And so that steps back and set up the standards that you helped us set up the elite self-image to see where are we capable of in 1 year, 5 years, maybe, longer time horizon. And then really understand, how do we then elevate that baseline together? How do we each elevate our own baseline and then come to work and do it together? that really helped. And what I saw, just to step back, if it's people that grind too much or pursuing it for their own kind of self achievement, or there's people that say that's not me. The third kind of challenge that we saw was maybe that's not for me, or I can't do it. It's that element of grace, and it was mentioned in the wrap up meeting that we had by one of our colleagues. Just giving yourself grace along this journey, that you can have standards, you can have that elite self-image, but you also along the way need to give yourself grace that you're going to have tough times, you're going to have busy weeks, we're going to have busy seasons. And we certainly have that at Marquette. We have a great flagship athletic program in Marquette basketball that takes us around the country. And it's a busy, hectic season amidst a very full academic calendar and fundraising year. And we have to be our best for Marquette. We have to be our best for each other, but ultimately we have to be our best for ourselves, so that this is a more rewarding process of pursuing something that's we hope is meaningful for ourselves and our careers and our families. And then it gets to be more fun. Then it gets to be, how do we be playful about elevating that baseline? And you certainly introduced a lot of different competitive things, and some caught and some didn't. And that was all great to test it out.
Yeah. Understanding seasons of our lives are huge. We talked about that a lot, and it's very clear, with you guys, when you're heading into, really busy seasons, and having some of that grace for yourselves. We even adapted a few aspects of the program on the fly. I mean, the program is set for a weekly cadence, right? And I remember like having a couple of action steps where I'm like, 75% of the team's in a hotel room in New York City right now for the Big East tournament. I'm like, that's right. Up. Like, I didn't plan on week 6 being the Big East tournament week, or the first week of the NCAA tournament. So it was fun for me to adapt on the fly as well.
Yeah, we're gonna do it live.
We're gonna do it live, baby. Yeah, we're gonna do it live. So that was great, and it was a good learning experience for me too, because like, every team that I work with is different. Obviously, I work a lot with financial professionals individually, and a lot of my company program work has been with financial firms. And so this was a slight change for me, but it was really great to see, how you guys, had to live and how you adapted on the fly. And so that was great. I had written down adversity because I wanted to sort of bring that up, because everybody deals with it, in their lives, in their professional lives, in their personal lives. And you mentioned grace, and us talking about the challenges that some people had. I mean, we don't have to get into like specific examples of the adversity that some people face, but there were members of the team throughout the process who certainly didn't have a great setup to work on themselves and to prioritize themselves. I'm curious, like, what was from your viewpoint, how do you think a lot of the team members handled, adversity over the last 6 months versus maybe, how they may have in the past, not specifically each individual, but how they may have in the past? And what did you notice different about your team throughout the last 6 months, if anything?
Well, number one, I'm really grateful to be on this team. I consider myself a member, but I'm also, in the role as vice president, the de facto leader of the team. But I'm really grateful for each member of the team, because I think together we really have a special group. And it was really fun for me to see that, see the different individuals that make up this team, their character, their integrity, their care for each other. Having standards and having some tools within the process allowed, I think, some of the members of the team that went through some really hard challenges outside of work, that really were able to kind of go back to some of these tools. Not least of which was you yourself having some awareness and checking in with them. So it's one thing for me and our team to know, but also having this outside coach is a lot of times where the value of the executive coach is missed. It's in those moments that really allows people not to just go completely off the rails. And I don't think they would have, because they're resilient, tough people, but they were going through a lot of things that were out of their control. And I think having the tools, having you, but then the last piece is some of us on the team, knew a little bit about what was going on. And we were able to kind of check in, hey, let's go for a walk. Hey, do you have a protein bar? Are you drinking water at all today? Do you have too many meetings stacked up? Is there one I can take off of your plate? I not just saw that with me being more aware of that, me trying to do it myself, but I noticed and heard about other teammates doing that for each other. And I think that really brought us together in a way that was different. And I feel like we are more connected now in a way that isn't just about talking about how do we take care of an alumnus or a gift prospect or something work related, but really more on the personal level. Hey, how was so-and-so's camp last week? Hey, how's your sister doing? These different things that we can connect a little bit more deeper. And then the strategy and the execution become kind of maybe a little smoother in some cases.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you just said. And I experienced the same thing. It was really cool to see people. Obviously, it wasn't cool from the perspective of watching them go through challenges. And it ran the gamut of challenges with family that you have absolutely no control over, and people moving across the country, like all of the typical things that, and I even said this when we went out to dinner recently. It's like, you guys have dealt with challenges that would throw people off for the entire year, right? Meaning we get to the end of 2025 and you kind of look back and do your audit like every normal person does. And they go, this was a tough year because I moved, right? I sold a home. I had a challenge. One of my kids really struggled, this year with their health, and which all happened. And it's like, those are things that people would blame an entire year's worth of lack of progress on, when in reality, some of it could be ongoing, but others it's a 3-week process. It's a 1-month process. I'm not saying it's not easy. It's very difficult to go through, but it was really cool to see how they all, sort of ebbed and flowed through those challenges, and ultimately, made a choice to charge, made a choice to move on and push forward, and continue the new standards that they were setting for themselves, to watch some of them fluctuate through time, to have grace for themselves, because, I did notice that as their, coach. I noticed maybe more than you did in terms of like, oh, all of a sudden we've instead of turning the dial down, we've flipped the switch off. And could we just turn that dial back up a little bit? Maybe it doesn't belong at the same intensity, at the same level that it was at. But getting to see them do that a bit in their lives was really cool. Was really cool for me, because I think that was new.
Yeah, and if you don't have standards, or you don't have maybe a different type of approach, then when things get hard, when the volume gets turned up, real life happens. You can modify something down or up based on what's happening, but you need to have a routine. You need to have those tools that can help you manage those situations. So having those things was really good. And then having some of the common language, like we talked about already, is, steps and water, some of the basics. Sometimes early on it would be kind of jokes, in the office, you getting your steps in. And then it was more like, and then it was, some of them taking, Joe sending the pictures at sunset on the Milwaukee lakefront, just kind of setting his own standard. And he was one of the great encouragers throughout the team. So a lot of good examples of that. But having standards then allows you to kind of modify up or down in times of great stress.
For sure. It was really cool to see each individual take their own role inside of the program. Some were public with what they were doing and challenging others. And, we even talk about that. We were on a weekly basis, we were, focusing on communication. Mm-hmm. You communicate better with, who can you challenge, who can you operate with, right? Things that great teams do. We were asking them to identify these people so that they could all hold each other accountable and create some in-person accountability. But it was fun to see, some people did their work individually, because I would hear from the person who got support from maybe somebody that I thought wasn't even actively participating that much, because they weren't publicly in the app, in our group chat, sharing and encouraging. But I heard, after the fact in our weekly check-ins, which everybody did, I would hear that they got support from this person. I'm like, oh, they are involved. Perfect. So it was really cool to see, it is even you guys are a team, you definitely work as a team, but people, correct me if I'm wrong, have individual relationships with donors, right? And so just like a Wall Street trading desk, just like any other firm, there are individuals who collectively come together to do the work of the university, to do the work of the team, of the company. And you can take two different approaches. I could just stay in my silo of my names that I trade and not worry about what's going on, with anybody else on the desk. Or I could be a little bit more collaborative and rely on other people's support. So it's really fun to watch that develop over the course of the months that we work together.
Yeah, that narrow focus, we say this a lot, it doesn't end well, because that person's maybe making it more about themselves or not as secure in the collaboration. So the more we can encourage, our three cultural values within our department are service, collaboration, and persistence. And each of them mean something, and they're all connected. But that middle pillar of collaboration is incredibly important, and it requires a lot of security in oneself that this is not about the credit. It's about the work. It's about Marquette. It's about the relationship we're trying to foster and leave better. We can't leave a relationship better if it's just about our relationship or our connection to this donor and where they're giving. It's got to be broader. And we see these strong, rich, long-standing relationships, in many cases, multi-generational relationships that are fortified because 3 or 4 members of our team know that person or family really well. Not just like them, but know them well. And so this work we've done on the team has, I think, brought that to another level because we are more comfortable having all kinds of conversations, the celebratory conversations, the supportive conversations, the conversations where I think you just want me to listen. Okay, yeah. I'm going to listen. I'm getting better at that, trying to get better at that.
You can coach me, coach.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll let you know. But then it's the conversations where we need to say that didn't go like we maybe thought it would. We need to talk about how we're going to do it differently. So I think the communication that we focused on was really helpful as well.
I know your full year is not over yet. Your fiscal year is not over yet, and I'm not looking for you to make any non-public information, but I think that performance in the office and your performance this year as a team has gone okay with all of this focus, right? Going back to the story we tell ourselves. If I start to focus on myself more outside the office, that's a great idea, but you don't understand. My performance is going to suffer. So far as a team, I think you guys are doing all right.
Yeah, actually, you are correct. And we have our fiscal year did end. It ended June 30th. Okay. So it was our first fiscal year after our 8-year fundraising campaign, which was our historic Time to Rise campaign. We finished fundraising at $802 million on a goal of $750 million, which is the largest by more than double in Marquette history. And it's a credit to our alumni, parents, and friends who give, and the partners across campus, and our great advancement team that tries to facilitate everything in between. But there was a question mark after that 8-year journey. And sadly, we lost our president, Dr. Lovell. I'm pretty sure I mentioned him in your 110th episode because he was such an incredible leader and a great mentor to me. So we have had a tough stretch at Marquette. June 9th of 24, a few weeks before the end of the campaign, Dr. Lovell passed away after a 3-year battle for sarcoma. Then we finished the campaign while we're grieving him and trying to support his family. And we went through a period with our provost and acting president, Kimo Ayun, who was announced president in November of 24 and then celebrated and inaugurated as our 25th president in April. And throughout all of this, I'm really proud that we've had our best fundraising year and kind of humbled and shocked in some ways. But it speaks to the momentum we've generated through our philanthropic community, speaks to the generosity of Marquette alumni, parents, and friends. But there are some things that you can tie together, Brian, with the work that you've done. We've had our best fundraising year in the history of Marquette, and we'll announce it on Monday. I know you're waiting with bated breath to see what the final numbers are. I'm not going to break news on the success lift, and I'm not sure exactly when this comes out. But anyways, the work that we did within our team, this is a year we easily, especially leaders within our department, easily could have burnt out. Mm. We easily could have checked out. We easily could have gotten a little more isolated. And because in large part of the work you brought to us, we got better. And I talk a lot about the heroic framework, the work that Brian Johnson and Michael Balchin do at Heroic, and that movement. The second objective is developing anti-fragile confidence. When things get hard, we get stronger. We're actually not a candle that when the wind picks up, we blow out. We're a bonfire that when the wind picks up, we get that much stronger. And your work was a big lever in helping us get stronger in a year where we easily could have coasted or looked for other excuses, looked for other stories that maybe would have served us.
Well, I'll take it, man. Anytime you jump on the end of a 8-year heater and there's real momentum, there's nothing like taking credit for it. So I'll take it. No, I actually, it was cool for you to lay that out for me, because I didn't even understand some of the timing of it. And it was awesome to see everybody step up and push themselves to go to another level personally, which I then believe and saw that it came back into the office and produced even better results as professionals. Because like we talked about, I think there were a lot of things that people went through over the last 6 months on the team that could have, in the past, in past stories and past beliefs, sort of rightfully so, and I just used air quotes, rightfully so, had them just punt it to like, oh, well, this has happened. So, it's a transitional year for us anyway, from a fundraising standpoint. And it's just okay to sort of chalk it up to this one was an L, and we'll get back to it, next year type of thing. So, and I appreciate the kind words, but you got a great team.
Well, can I say one more thing on that? This is brief. I think there's a difference between excuses and grace. Grace is real life stuff, and grace is being honest with yourself about, hey, it's okay to do a little less today. I'm not going to drop off entirely, but I'm going to give myself grace. There was the only, how about this for a quick stat? The only national champion in Hofstra University wrestling history is a guy by the name of Nick Gallo. And Nick Gallo, when I was working at Hofstra as an athletic administrator early 2000s, he was honored, and he came up behind the mic and he started by saying, excuses satisfy those who make them. Champions find a way. And, he's the national champ, I guess. Nick, he could say that he was. I really think excuses are different than grace, because grace is real and excuses are the stories that we are telling ourselves.
Having worked with hundreds of people, like the ones that are inside your team and my individual clients and my past, company clients, I couldn't agree with that more. I say, and I told all your guys this, guys and girls this when we first met, how unique they were as individuals. But if we just chunk up a couple of levels, all their problems are generic, as you know what. And it's sometimes hard for people to buy into that and to get them over the hump of like, they are very unique, but like we all got the same problems, man. We all got the same issues. And so to understand that there are other people out there doing some of the things that you're maybe telling yourself is not possible, I think is powerful, because if they can do it, so can you. I say that all the time, right? If I can, be in this bubble that I was in my career and think that, I had to do things a certain way, but then realize there was another way and just start chipping away at it and, in a good way, grinding. If I can do this stuff, so can anybody else. I know you feel the same way.
Absolutely.
What do you think will be different inside the team and at Marquette for you guys going forward after going through the program? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I think a few things and that will stick with us. One, I think we all have permission, right? That's baked in now. People prioritize their own movement, nutrition, sleep, the fundamentals that we talk about. When am I going to find time? No matter how hectic a season is, there's 5 or 10 minutes of a day that we need to be able to carve out for quiet breath or prayer or journaling, just that little mental health break. I think the things that are different now are how we bring our own permission, to each day. I think there's also a level of understanding that you don't have to go back to back in meetings. We can take these breaks. I think that was somewhat there already. So I think permission is one. I think common language is also elevated within our team. And I think now the opportunity is, how do we continue to let the leadership team be that rock in the water and be the concentric circles out into the rest of the department. And we talk about that a lot. How can we be the department multipliers with each of our respective teams that we lead? And so we're thinking about how that can be different going forward. And then I think the biggest thing that without sharing too much, is that we're in this quiet phase of the next campaign. How can the work we do to take care of ourselves, take care of each other, allow us to take care of Marquette in a different way, in a different scale? What are we capable of as a fundraising unit? That's the fun. That's the benefit of being in advancement now at Marquette, is that it's a special time at the university. We have a time of great momentum amidst the time in higher ed where the value proposition of going to college is being challenged. And how can we be that bonfire and not a candle? And so the opportunity here, what's different now, is that I think we're ready to run at it in a different way than maybe we were before we started working with you, maybe with a little more confidence, a little more of a protocol. So I'm excited about all those things. I'm really excited about what our ceiling can be as a department over the next several years. The benefit of the interesting thing about what we do is it's not quarterly earnings. We certainly chunk things down into all the different, weeks, months, days, but we're also looking at things over a 5-10 year horizon. And as you've talked about, you can do a lot in the day, but I think you were talking about the hockey stick, over 5 or 10 years. That's where some of the big leaps can happen. So I'm excited about that.
I just wrote that down: confidence and protocols. Like, if you could get 2 things out of a program, I mean, those are 2 great takeaways, great principles to sort of move, in advance in your life. And I do believe now, thinking at, my life and my program and the work that, whether it's my program or another, the work that you do on yourself, doing a lot of the things that we do inside the program absolutely produces more confidence and develops more protocols. And that's a pretty good formula to have a successful career, a successful family, and a great personal life too.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks for those. Thanks for those talking points. I'm starting to put that in my marketing.
I'm here to help.
I appreciate you. Anything before I let you go? Anything unexpected in the program that you like, didn't like? What would you change? What would you do different? Or what were you expecting that maybe we didn't do? I'm just more curious than anything else.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a great answer with this. I've been thinking about this one too. We're friends, and I knew your work beforehand. I was curious about how it would be received. We have great consultants that we work with in higher ed advancement that do more of the strategic, tactical work. A lot of it these days is how we're using AI into various parts of our operation. Yeah. As far as the work, I wasn't sure how the nutrition side and some of the more personal side would work. I was really pleasantly surprised at how that really helped some of the individuals connect. It certainly helped me. I'd never tracked macros in any consistent way. It's something I have to get back to that I haven't tracked in the last couple of weeks. But I thought that was really good. The one-word focus were good. The ACP, I thought early on, number one, I tried to communicate permission, right? Number one, and I think that we're there. We've mentioned that a few times. But the other one was certain expectations, like the ACP is a non-negotiable. You absolutely have to do that. This was optional at the high end, but at the baseline level, there was absolute expectation, because this was something that we were investing in as a team, professionally. And so I was pleasantly surprised at the adoption with the team. But I don't have any major things that I wish we would have done. I would tell you if I did. I don't have that.
I don't want to put myself out there by having you tell me publicly. What Tim's referring to is the program is designed to effectively meet everybody where they're at, and in order to do that, we have to deliver a lot of the foundational exercises and work on a weekly basis that some might find to be brand new, and others might find to be like, I've been doing this for the last decade. And on top of that, everyone is able to customize their experience via one-on-one custom coaching. So Tim was at a higher level of awareness and experience with his nutrition. So Tim was tracking his macros. He was entering his food into an app. We were looking at his consumption on a weekly basis. Other people just got a lot of benefit from understanding why they should be eating more single ingredient foods, why they should be prioritizing protein and fiber, how they can add more, fast, easy, low calorie snacks. A few of the members got so busy with their personal lives, they were forgetting to eat and, throughout their workday. So how can we, enable you to have fuel at your desk? And so the level of customization is whatever you want to make it inside of the program. But it was cool to see people effectively finding what worked for them and then taking it to whatever level, they needed to. And then, thank you you mentioned the ACP. The ACP stands for Accountability, Commitment, and Preparation. And that's my weekly check-in with clients. And I name it that because if we do those three things I've found throughout our week, if we spend some time thinking about what we did last week, and did we hold ourselves to the standard that we had set? Did we do the things we said we were going to do? Most people do that once a year, twice a year, New Year's Eve and a birthday maybe, or a vacation, right? If we can start to collapse the amount of time that we take to get feedback, collapse the feedback loops in our lives. And you can do this hourly if you want to. We do it weekly. I have individual clients that do a little mini audit at the end of each day. We would talk about the pillow test and doing, a little bit of a quick audit to see how your day was going, because the more you get feedback, the faster you get feedback, the faster you can implement change, and you can continue to compound the growth and the change in your life. The next thing we would do is make commitments. That's the C. What are you going to do this week? What are you promising to do this week for others and for yourself? And then lastly, I think the part that most people miss, professionals miss, because everybody wakes up on Monday and they tell themselves they're going to do better this week, they're going to change their lives this week, is the preparation. And if you have a brand new routine that you're going to start on the week of the Big East tournament, when you're in Manhattan at one lunch, one dinner, a game, sleeping in a hotel room, like, good luck, And so preparing for all of the things that are coming at your way, because most of the time we can see our calendars, we can see that train coming a mile away down the tracks, and we just have to simply slide over to the left or to the right and not let it run us over. And so preparing on a weekly basis, I think, is a powerful thing for all of my clients. I think a lot of people, that was something new that most people don't think, like, oh yeah, I have a dinner Wednesday, I got a lunch Thursday, I got a date with my wife on Friday, I got to bring the kids here on Saturday. It's like, okay, how am I going to manage this? And just giving people a little bit of space to look at what's going on in their lives and managing it appropriately is powerful.
Yeah. It's something that resonated with me that you've said numerous times with us, but also outside of it in your other content, is we could tell you where we're going to be September 21st at 2 p.m., but we don't know what we're having for lunch. It doesn't kind of line up. And that really helped me. Like, yeah, you're right. I have to absolutely be able to plan my nutrition, my sleep, my exercise, and the ACP and other methods help us do that. And then when September 21st comes, we'll know where we're going to be, but we'll also know what we're going to have for lunch and dinner that day.
Treat your personal life a little bit more like your professional life, and you'll do just fine. Tim, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on. As
welcome,
everyone on the team, echoed to you when we met. I do appreciate, you as a friend, but also you as a professional and your leadership and being open to trying something a little different. This is not, as you mentioned, this is not your typical executive coaching program. And it's designed that way because I found that all of the executive coaching that I went through and all of the sort of traditional corporate wellness programs that I went through, they were all well-intended. They all had great things, great components of them, but they missed the mark for me and a lot of the people that I knew. And this is my hope, is to design, something that everyone can take and apply outside the office so that they can bring it inside. Because very rarely is the problem actually inside the office for a lot of people that I know. And so thanks for being open to trying something a little different. And it was a blast.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for saying those kind words. And I'll just say, as I wrap, on behalf of our entire team, thank you for what you did for us collectively, and also the way you spent time individually. It was fun to see it live and see it work in action. But we're all really grateful for you and the work you did. So thank you.
Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you back here next week.